Good evening, Kushal.
Yes, good evening, Akhil sir.
So can we start, sir?
Sure, we can. Yes.
Learning how to learn is the imperative skill. Good evening, everyone. Whoever is attending the session today, I hope each one of you are staying safe and sound. Before we move straight ahead with the session, myself, I'm Elin Maria Baiju, a member of the student editor team at Let's Erudite. I'll be the host for today, and I welcome you all to today's webinar. So our topic will be making most out of law school or building a career after law school. I embrace this opportunity to unveil and familiarize the vision of Let's Erudites. Let's Erudites is the brainchild of a group of enthusiastic and foresighted law students, which primarily aims to provide a platform for social legal discourse. We aim to provide an open e-journal by borrowing constructive independent ideas and thoughts on social legal issues from students and professionals in the form of articles and blogs. So we look forward for your cooperation and we are all open to your valuable suggestions. So for today's session, we have two knowledgeable panelists, Mr. Kushal Singh, who is an advocate at the Bombay High Court. He's an educator, content creator, and he also handles legal aptitude, which is the core area in legal entrance examination. Our second panelist for today will be Mr. A. Anil Kumar, who's an educator and has trained thousands of students over these years of different competitive examinations like CLAT, HSEE, AILET, MHCT, and CAT. He's also the director of ExamEdge, that's an institute in Thrissur. He was also associated with various print media for more than 20 years. But due to some connectivity issues, apparently Anil sir wouldn't be able to join us. But no worry, he has talked whatever message he has to convey today to Kushal sir, so he will be taking up all those issues. So I think we can proceed with the session, Kushal sir.
Sure, absolutely.
Over to you,
So,
sir, then.
thank you so much, Ellen. So first of all, everyone, for everyone who's watching us here on YouTube, thank you so much for joining. Thank you for making your time and being with us here today. I understand that everyone is here so that we can have a conversation. Now, I'm not much of a believer in talking because that turns out to be a very one-sided conversation. Rather, it's not a conversation at all. So, what I would like to do with you here today is for everyone who's attending here, I'd like you to address your queries, address your questions directly with you. If you have any opinions to give me, I am open to those. So now what I want everyone who's already live with us, I think we have about 15 people. I can see you all live on chat as well. So if there's anything you want me to share with you, anything specific that you want to ask me while I'm taking all these things, please feel free to comment in the chat section so that this doesn't remain just a talk. It turns into a conversation, into a more fruitful utilization of your and my time as well. And before we begin, I would like to congratulate Lex Erudites, Ellen, and the complete team behind this young group of students who are working so hard, working so diligently, even in these COVID times, to create something of value, to create a conversation, uh, to educate people from the legal fraternity and otherwise, and to bring to you audience who are in their 11th 12th standard. I'm going to quickly stop for 2 seconds. There's some instability in my net. Give me 2 seconds and then we'll resume once again. Ellen, I'd like to know if I am audible right now.
So we'll wait for Kushal sir. Hello, Kushal sir.
Ellen, am I audible right now?
Yeah, sir, you're audible right now.
Audible right now. Okay. Okay. So just give me a moment. I will have to. Ellen, please give me a moment. There is some issue here. Just give me a moment. I'm going to go off live and then be back in a moment.
Also, for those people who are hearing me, Let's Say Redice will be accepting submissions in the form of articles and blogs. So if you are a law student who is seeking to publish his articles or blogs desperately, please mail us. If your quality, if your content quality is great, you'll definitely publishing it. So feel free to contact us. We'll be there for your legal assistance. Kindly wait for a few minutes. Kushal sir will be back soon.
Ellen, am I audible now?
Yes, sir, you are very audible.
All right. So continuing with where I left off, let us assume that many of you here who have joined us here today. Yes, Hasna says, good afternoon, Hasna. Thank you for joining us. So now let us assuming that many of you are in your 10th standard, 11th standard, 12th standard, and you have already been, the questions have already started. Your uncles who haven't spoken to you in 10 years are now coming and asking you, what do you want to do ahead in your life? All of a sudden, the whole of society has started asking you what you plan to do. Well, keeping all of that aside, if you're someone who's always looked at law as something that has interested you, be it in the form of when you saw it in a film, an actor playing out a scene in a legal movie, or whether you have grown up reading and watching legal fiction and it has always interested you, or if you are someone of the more grounded and factual kind and you have seen the things that have happened around you, the impact that lawyers have in life, or you know a lawyer personally and you aspire to be like that person someday, then maybe you are considering law as a career for yourself. Now, the first question that comes into your mind is, how do I get into law, or what are the various things that I will need to do in order to get into law and then excel in it? So let's begin with the first step, that is the law entrance examination. Now, in the era of information explosion, just giving information is redundant, I feel, because information today holds no value, absolutely no value. Why? Because you could literally Google something and get results, thousands of results in a matter of 0.001 second. So I propose to you this. Instead of boring you with a lot of information, let me give you some perspective. Let me give you some pointers that might help you in this journey of making the decision, sticking with it, and then succeeding because of having made that decision. So like I was saying, the first thing that would come into our mind, or the first thing that needs to be taken care of after you have decided that law is the career path that you want to choose for yourself, is the law entrance examination. Now, we have a lot of institutes in our country who offer legal education, private and otherwise. And on the top of that tier, or on the top of that list, are the national law colleges. Now, for those who don't know about it, let me equate it to you like this. They are the IITs and IIMs of law. These are the most premier institutions which provide top-notch legal education, international quality legal education, but not just these. Even on our state levels, we have institutions of excellence who every year help a lot of talented young legal minds graduate. So let's see how one gets into all of these institutes. So to start with the national laws, the exam that you have to write is the CLAT examination. That's the Common Law Admission Test. It is an all India examination which is conducted in rotation by 22 national law universities for admissions to their undergraduate and postgraduate degree programs. So there are about 22 institutes which participate in CLAT. Not just that, on the basis of your CLAT examination and the score that you get in CLAT examination, you will be able to also apply for admission procedures to various other private colleges as well. Ellen here if you could answer my question here, Ellen, you wrote the CLAT examination, right?
Yes, sir.
And now there is this myth that, CLAT examination is absolutely very difficult. It is very, very hard to crack the CLAT examination. So instead of me talking about it, let me just reverse roles here for 2 minutes and ask Ellen this question. Do you think, Ellen, that CLAT is impossible to crack? It is something that requires you to be absolutely diverted to it or absolutely focused just upon it, and that you cannot have a life if you want to pass the CLAT examination? Please bust the myth for all our young friends here who are taking part in the seminar today.
Absolutely no, sir. All you need is some dedication, some hard work. That's it. Like if you are into it, if you see like law as your career, and if you take interest in it, genuine interest in it, and you have time to invest in it, I think anybody can crack that. I mean, you just have to believe in yourself and just give your 100 for it. That's it. That's all you need to crack that.
See, Ellen has said it. I couldn't have said it that confidently, because Ellen has written the examination herself. She's passed the examination. She's sitting right in front of you. She's right now continuing or pursuing her legal education in Gujarat National Law School. So if she's telling you that it's easy, it's got to be easy. She's not going to lie on a public platform. So take her word for it, because guys, if you really have the passion for it, and if you're really looking forward to get into the field of law, the CLAT examination, or for that matter, any other legal examination, is not at all difficult. All it takes is some dedication to your own vision of wanting to get into law colleges. Now, before I start expounding on what the CLAT examination is or what the structure of this examination is about, let me stop you for a second there and tell you something. These exams are unlike any exam that you have written for your 12, 14 years of school life. For 12, 14 years of a school life, you were mostly memorizing information, connecting that information and presenting it in your examination. But CLAT examination, or for that matter, any entrance examination to any institution that is worth its money, is not like that. They're not worried about how much you can memorize. They're not worried about how much you can remember. What they are worried about it, when it comes to it, can you apply the knowledge that you have learned? Can you take principles that have been taught to you all this while or the syllabus that has been given to you, and can you apply that information and produce results within a particular amount of time? I, as a tutor, could tell you that there is no doubt that any student can crack the CLAT examination. But the only challenge there is that you have to finish within a particular number of hours. That is what makes the difference. Are you able to find that many right answers within that given period of time? Because only a person who's really dedicated towards it, only a person who's put a lot of time into preparing for that examination will be able to do it. That is the only hurdle. It's a game of speed and time rather than a game of knowledge. And more than a game of memory, it's a game of applied knowledge. Could you second what I just said, Ellen, if there is anything you think I have forgotten and would like to add to that?
Not really, sir. Like you have covered most of the points. Right. And also, yeah, that's it, sir.
Great. So like Ellen said earlier, and I just explained to all of you, it is not very difficult to pass the CLAT examination. It's just a matter of focusing. If it's a matter of wanting to do it, and then going behind in it, working towards it. Of course, a very important role in that is played by the preparation that you do, the institutes that you get into that help you prepare, the teachers that help you prepare. But above and beyond all of that, the most important thing there is how much you really want to do it. So now let's quickly take a look at what the CLAT examination is like. I will just quickly tell you a few names of a few colleges which you can get into if you write the CLAT examination. There's the National Law School of India University in Bangalore. There's the Nalsar University of Law in Hyderabad, National Law Institute University, the West Bengal National Law University of Judicial Sciences, National Law University, Jodhpur, Hidayatullah National Law University, Gujarat National Law University, Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia National Law University, Rajiv Gandhi National Law University, and similar other 12. These are 10 top universities that I've just talked about. There are similar other 12 universities to which you will become eligible for education if you pass the entrance examination. Now, let us talk about the eligibility of all of these tests. As far as CLAT is concerned, for a person from the general category, all you need is 45% of marks in your 12th. For people from the reserved categories, you just need about 40% marks on your 12th examination. And above and beyond, after that, your admission is decided upon the rank that you score in the CLAT examination. So the CLAT examination not only enables you to take admission to premier national law institutes, but the score that you get in the CLAT examination can also make you eligible for other institutes, other private institutes. If you have a really high score that, even though it's a high score and you didn't make it to National Law College, there are a lot of other institutes on the basis of that score offer you scholarships when you enter into their college, offer you fee reductions into that college. So that is what I wanted to share with you all about the CLAT examination. Regarding the upper age limit for CLAT examination, currently there is no upper age limit. So even if you are someone who's finished your graduation and you don't want to take the 3-year LLB, rather you would like to have the whole complete 5-year experience and would like to write the CLAT examination and go into a national law college, don't worry, you can. So that is about CLAT examination. Now I'm quickly going to pause for 2 minutes so that all our friends, our 20 and 30 people who have joined us here on YouTube Live, can ask any questions that they have. So yeah, guys, all of you are watching us on YouTube. Please feel free to ask any questions that you may have. Of course, Eileen will also be asking me questions on your behalf. But apart from that, if anybody has any doubts that they want addressed regarding the CLAT examination, regarding what I just talked about, please feel free to ask me. Right. I don't think there are any questions for anyone as such. So we are going to move on to the next entrance examination, or the next set of examinations that you can all prepare for in order to start off or kick off your legal career journey. There is the law school admission test, which is an integral part of law school admission in the United States and in many other foreign countries as well. So LSAT is what you write if you want to pursue your legal education abroad. The purpose of LSAT test is to ensure or check if you have the basic skills that are necessary in going for law school. So that is basically, can you read and comprehend a lot of things? Do you have reasoning abilities? Do you have writing abilities? But unlike CLAT, LSAT is divided into two parts. You will have the first test and you will have the second test. The first test will test your basic logical reasoning, writing abilities. And the second one will be a more comprehensive test where you will have to write a legal essay on a particular topic that is given to you. So the first test being a multiple choice question and the other being a question that will test your comprehensive abilities to deal with a question that is given to you in purview of the legal admissions or in purview of the legal situations around the world. Basically, it's an essay that you have to submit. Now, the next test that a lot of people prefer, a lot of students write, and sort of how do I put it? This test's reputation precedes itself. The moment somebody says this test, you find law aspirants just running for shelter in places. This is the IELTS examination, which is very notoriously famous for being an extremely difficult examination. However, this is an examination that's just a direct variant of what is asked to us or what we do in the CLAT examination. IELTS is conducted for the admissions to national law universities in Delhi exclusively. So this is an entrance test that is designed specifically for that college. Students who crack IELTS are eligible to pursue BA, LLB honors, LLM and PhD degree programs on a merit basis. Now, I'll quickly run through a few other entrance examinations that you can opt for in order to pursue your education in the legal field. There is the Delhi University Law Entrance. There is the Maharashtra CET, that is Maharashtra Common Entrance Test, which will make you eligible to be able to take admission in any college across Maharashtra. So please keep in mind that this is the one way for ILS Pune, you have the GLC Mumbai, and all other law colleges within Maharashtra. This examination is what you need to write if you're planning to go into Maharashtra and get your degree from there or practice at the same time from or intern in and around Mumbai or Maharashtra for that matter. Right. So I'm going to stop here for a moment and take one question that one of our friends here has asked. So can you please say what should be the minimum marks to be attained to clear CLAT if I am from general category? So the minimum marks that you have to gain in or that you have to score in your 12th, if you're from the general category, like I mentioned earlier, is 45%. However, the admission to the college, that's your eligibility. The admission to your college will be based on the basis of merit that you attain in your CLAT examination, Gopika. So, which keeps changing every year depending on the difficulty of the examination. So, if the exam was really difficult and not a lot of people were able to score high marks, then the entry eligibility will be much lesser. And if the exam was very easy and a lot of people scored very high marks, then accordingly. So as far as your 12th marks are considered, that's not a problem. You could even have scored just 45% and you will still be able to appear for the CLAT examination. So after MHCT comes your BHU, Army Institute of Law. They have their own entrance examination. Of course, the Army Institute of Law has a few seats reserved for particular categories as well. Then there is Jamia Millia, there is Aligarh Muslim University, there is Christ University Law Entrance Examination. These are a few really reputed institutes that you can write the examination for. And also there is the Kerala Law Entrance Examination, which provides you entrance into law institutes in Kerala, into government law institutes in Kerala. Uh, so that's pretty much the major examinations. That is pretty much every other examination or any examination of importance. These are the exams that you can generally prepare for. Now, you must be thinking that there are so many different examinations, there must be so much preparation to do. Absolutely not. In fact, all of these examinations, because they are essentially designed to test the same kind of acumen, to basically test if you have the skills or if you have the acumen. Rather than skills, I would say skill is something that we attain over a period of time. Rather than that, if you have an acumen to be able to pursue law, that is what these examinations generally check and look out for. So in order to test these, most of the formats that these examinations have are very, very similar. You will have the general knowledge area where they will ask you on current affairs and general knowledge as well. You will have your English skill testing, that is, you will have reading comprehension, you will have jumbled passages, pardon me, all designed in order to test your ability to comprehend information in form of written data. Then there will be your quant and logical, that is your quantitative abilities and your logical abilities. And then there will be your legal aptitude. Now, many people think that, legal aptitude means having knowledge of law. Let me just quickly correct that myth. It's not having knowledge of law. It's just having the ability to apply legal principles into given situations. That is what this examination is about. They're not here to test you on law even before you have started learning law. All they are trying to test is do you have the basic skill that a lawyer needs to have, and that is ability to think logically, ability to have a very organized manner of thinking, ability to process a lot of data and information, and above all, ability to implement the information and knowledge that you are given into factual situations. So that's about, that was pretty much all the information, and that was what Anil sir has shared with me in order to, share with all of you guys. He also sends all of this information with his regards if you do choose to pursue the path of CLAT examination and take up that examination. He wishes all of you all the best. Now, before we go into the next area, Aline, please, if you have any other questions or if anybody else watching on YouTube has any questions, please feel free to ask.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, absolutely, Ali.
Yeah. So firstly, let me mention something. So somebody has put in YouTube that, sir, I joined a bit late. So can you say about the climate exam? So to that person, we will be sharing the recording. This recording will be available, so you can watch it later. So I'll just go over the questions that I have prepared. Like, okay, so you told like how to get into a law school and how to prepare for it, and what are the basics of the test and stuff. But before getting into a law school, something is important, I think you should answer is that how do you decide that law is your calling? Like, what should be the desired traits within myself so that I personally feel that, okay, law is my calling, that I can be a good lawyer, like, CLAT is my thing. How can you decide that?
First and foremost, stay away from those people who tell you that, oh, you can talk, so you should become a lawyer. Those are the people who have absolutely no understanding of law and are recommending you to do it. So, first and foremost, stay away from those uncle and aunties who think you should become a lawyer just because you argue well with them. Secondly, now to a more serious and to a more apt answer to your question, Ali. Uh, Before, and this is for any career that you sort of want to choose, right? You need to understand and really reflect within yourself. Is this something you see yourself doing? Do you have the basic skill set that is required in order to become a lawyer? When you look at law, when you look at the positioning of law in the society, is it something that you aspire to do? So quickly deviating from the topic, Ellen, I will just like to introduce the concept of career visibility. Career visibility is a concept one learns when one is learning about decision making involved in careers. What career visibility basically means is, when you decide to do a career, now let us say I want to become a professional I want to become a professional writer, or I want to, or a lawyer, right? I have seen a few movies. I've been extremely inspired by those movies. And I think, oh, law is really, really cool. I want to become a lawyer. Go talk to someone from that field and completely understand. First and foremost, even before we go on to the skills, Ali, the first thing that you have to think or understand is, do you have the career visibility of that career? So if you think that, oh, I would like to go practice as a lawyer, or I would like to go in the courts and do what I see people doing in the movies, or when I read newspapers about all these really big lawyers, or when I watch these interviews of these really famous lawyer, it inspires me. Go to a lawyer and talk to them. Ask them what their career really entails. Or if you are someone who's uh, watched a certain TV show, let me just quote it. There are a lot of students who come to me after watching Suits and they're like, sir, this looks really interesting. This is what I would like to become. That's great that you're getting inspired. Now go talk to a corporate lawyer and ask them, what exactly is this career like, minus all of the dramatization that I saw in TV. So first and foremost, Ellen, is the career visibility. Is that you need to make your decision on the basis of actually knowing whether this is the career that you want, or actually knowing what entails the career. So you have to first and foremost know for a fact what are the things one needs to do in order to be a part of that career. So even after that, if you feel like, oh, this is something that is really interesting, this legal career, you've gone to a lawyer, you've spoken to him, you've understood what the career entails, and you're still interested, and you're like, no, this is something that really inspires me, then that is the only parameter. The first and foremost, or the most important thing there, is your interest to learning law as a subject, not as a profession, not because it's fancy, not because somebody told you that you would earn a lot of money if you became a lawyer, just because you're really and genuinely interested in the subject, in knowing what law is about, in knowing about the legal structure, in knowing about the power of law, in knowing about the philosophy of law. So yeah, these two things I would certainly base my decisions on. First will be a career visibility, that is knowing what actually entails that career, and second, only and only on the basis of my interest towards that particular subject. Now some people would tell you that, what about skill? Skill is something that you can always develop if you have genuine interest for something. So many people say that, you have to be a really great speaker to be a lawyer, you have to be able to memorize a lot of things to be a lawyer. All of those things, those are absolutely not true, at least in my perspective, because all those skills you will be able, that is why you're going to law school, all those skills you will be able to pick them up once you're in law school. So that skill requirement should not be your parameter to make that choice. Rather, your interest in that particular profession should be.
Okay, so that was such a clear-cut answer. That was like perfect. Okay, so next question. Do you think that NLU graduates has an edge over non-NLU students when it comes to like internships or placements in top tier firms? Like if I'm a person who is looking for placements, does that mean that these students have a differentiation when it comes to getting a placement?
So yes and no. I will tell you yes, why, and how. I'll give you reasoning behind it. Uh, so generally, because we are brought up in a this also has its own societal impacts, because we are brought up in a society which tells us that passing from certain law college will enable you to pursue something, and that stereotype or that opinion is there for a reason, because it's somewhere true. Yes, it makes it a little bit easier for you to, if you're an NLU college, to get into certain kinds of firms, because certain kinds of firms prefer going to certain kinds of candidates. And these institutes or these premier institutes are offering, what do you say, they're offering a certain standard in quality, or rather than standard, that these students who are studying in these 22 law colleges are just a few. So they are the cream layer of, or rather than the cream layer, they are the students who actually passed the examination and wrote the examination and had access to all the facilities that NLU provide, and were taught by a few of the best faculties, and were in an environment that essentially designed them to be a really great lawyer. So on those terms, yes, the firms do prefer, or the firms do initially as default first look at these premier institutes to recruit. But for anybody else who's from some other institution, does that mean that he's not going to be able to become a best lawyer? Absolutely not. A few of the best lawyers we have in our country practicing right now, or at the top of the corporate legal ladder, are necessarily not ones who were only from national law. We have a mix of people. Yes, national laws or premier institutes make it a little easier for you. That's an advantage, but it's not a disadvantage for you to not be in a national law college. To answer it in a more simpler manner, yes. If you ask me, is height an advantage in basketball? Of course, yes, height is an advantage. But does that mean that if you're not 6.5 feet, 7 feet, you cannot play basketball? Absolutely not. There are so many players who have done it before. Uh, let's take also one more example. For if we have any football fans here, is it necessary to be really skilled in football? Is it necessary to have a natural flair in football? I mean, yes, it's an advantage, Lionel Messi. But does it mean that if you don't have that natural flair and advantage and natural talent, I wouldn't say talent, natural skills and leanings, you will not be able to become a footballer? Absolutely not. Cristiano Ronaldo is such a great example of what hard work can accomplish. And it's not any different as far as law is concerned. So, I hope I've been able to expound on both my yes and no's.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
there's an advantage being in National Law College, but it's not a disadvantage if you're not from National Law College. Please don't let that mentality of the society or of the world tell you that, oh, only if you're from a certain college can you excel in the field of law. Absolutely not. There are some great young lawyers that I am personally aware of, who are not from National Law College, but are still practicing really well. And yeah, so that would be my answer to that.
Okay, sir, great answer. Next question will be that if I don't make it to an NLU, what is the next best option according to you? I mean, in terms of college.
Okay, so there's no next best option, because if you go to NLU, you are still learning law. If you don't go to NLU, you're still learning law. So it always is the best option, because, like I said in the beginning, why did you choose to take up law? Because you really, really loved law, because you really, really aspire to have a life of a legal field and to be a part of the legal fraternity, right? So, if you have not got into NLU, there are a lot of other institutes which will enable you to do one thing that makes you eligible to be a lawyer: learn law. Yes, there will be a certain disparities in terms of the situation that you are in, or the resources that you have. And today, in fact, all the law institutes offer great resources to their students. What you choose to do beyond that is your value, is the value that you're creating for yourself. So I would say, whether or not you get into law, if you are really if you're really focused on wanting to learn law, it doesn't matter. There's no better choice or bad choice. But again, to answer that question on the basis of very factual basis, there are many other institutes that offer great programs in law. There are great institutes abroad. You can also apply for scholarships while going abroad, which enable you to sponsor your own education. There are other institutes like Nirma. There are state institutes. There is the institute Symbiosis. There are many other institutes. There's MHCET. You can go to Government Law College Mumbai. You can go to ILS Pune. So there are a lot of institutes for that fact that even if you don't get into the 22 national institutes, because the seats are really less. I mean, it's a given that everybody is not going to get the chance to get into. Out of all these lakhs of people, only a few thousands are going to be able to get into national law college. Does that mean that the remaining thousands and tens of thousands and lakhs of students are useless? Absolutely not. There are a lot of other options. Then it's a matter of making a smart choice. Now I'm not got into national law. What are the colleges that I have become eligible for, and what's the college that's going to offer me the best program for my needs? Okay, so I could be someone who is looking to study near my house, or who wants that I don't want to spend that much money, or I don't want to spend that much out traveling, or I want to stay at home and study. Then I can look at institutes around me. So there are a lot of institutes that can offer you equal or good amount of quality education, even if you don't get into national law. And of course, I have for anybody who still has doubt regarding that, in the beginning of the seminar, you could just quickly go back once the seminar is uploaded, and in the beginning I've discussed some specific institutes that you could be a part of, even if you don't get into the CLAT.
Okay, sir. I'll shoot one more question then.
Yes, absolutely.
So most of the students, hello sir, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. So most of the students see law as a part of exams like civil service. Do you think like taking law will have a specific edge for students who are preparing for civil service? And if so, like how can you make use of these 5 years of law school to prepare for civil service?
So I will answer this question in 2 tiers. The first one being that, does it give you a specific advantage? I mean, if you've taken law as your chosen subject as specialization in your UPSC preparation, there's a little bit advantage. But I mean, that advantage doesn't really give you much of an edge, because if you would have taken political science while you were doing your BA or MA in political science and then preparing for it, then that subject becomes really easy for you. So no, it does not offer any specific advantage, because it's administrative services or services in general is such a vast concept that law is only a small part of it. There are so many other skills that are required for one to be a civil services person or a civil services officer, and law is not just one of those. There's a lot more. So would you get a very high added advantage? I don't think so. Can you make use of those 5 years in order to prepare for the examination? Absolutely yes. Now, why I say that, even if it doesn't offer you on the face of its advantage in terms of your course material, it does offer you advantage on another terms. When you're learning law, you become very used to or you become habituated to or you become exposed to a vast amount of information. And in this 5 years, you can train your brain to handle information a lot more effectively than any other subject can. Law specifically prefers or trains you to be able to take voluminous amount of information, make sense out of it, and turn that information into knowledge. So in those terms, in terms of preparation and in terms of general setup of preparing your brain to be able to evaluate so much information that is required for your UPSC examinations, yes, it offers a slight advantage. And of course, you can take those 5 more years or 5 years that you have, or if you are someone who's finished your graduation and you're doing the 3-year law, of course, it's something you can do simultaneously if you're really looking to prepare. I've personally known people who have done that, who have taken up law as in order to supplement their efforts within the UPSC examinations.
Okay, sir. I think that's pretty much for the session.
Right.
I'll show the rest of the questions later.
Right. Okay. So now we can. Okay, we have one more question. Are marks important in law school the same way marks are important for medical students as they battle between life and death? Okay, do we have some? Right. I wish I could directly, have one-on-one with this person who's asked this question. However, I'm going to quickly, very briefly answer this question. So someone has asked, are marks important in law school the same way marks are important for medical students as they battle between life and death? Uh, well, I mean, this is a double-edged sword, right? I can answer telling you, no, marks are absolutely not important. But yes, marks are indicative of your knowledge in a particular subject. Are they going to be definitive? Are they going to be definitive in terms of, oh, now I've got low marks, so I'm going to be absolutely useless in life? No, absolutely not. Marks are just indicator of what you have done for those 2, 3, 4, or 5 years. So no, they are not indicative. However, it doesn't hurt to have good marks. I mean, there is a counter narrative to the. There are two narratives that we have always been fed, and these are the only two narratives. One is that you need to really work hard, study hard, and that is only the thing that is going to come in handy. And then the other is, oh, marks don't matter. We don't have to put any efforts into it, and we'll look at it later. Both these opinions or having both these approaches can be extremely dangerous for you. What you need to have is a middle ground. Middle ground in the sense of I need to put in the work in order to be able to study and score decent marks and pass. However, if I'm not able to do that, if I'm not able to score the desired mark or score extremely high marks, that's not going to stop my career from flourishing or for my career from becoming a good career or having a great legal practice or having a good career in whatever I choose to do. So no, they are not definitive like that. Yet, if somebody tells you marks are not important and you can laze around in your college, please do not listen to them. They are not your friends. Throw them out of your life. The reason being that marks are indicative essentially of the efforts that you put. So yes, having good marks never hurt anybody. So don't be averse to it. So that was the answer to this person's question. And now I would like to take you to the next segment of this webinar, which is about the careers that law has to offer, or even before the careers, what to do with while being in law school. So now, all my friends in the chat box, I would quickly want all of you to comment. What's your one fear while being in law school? One of my biggest fears. Now, because if I directly ask you a question like this, you'll be like, "What is he trying to say?" Or "What are you trying to, get at?" Let me tell you this. One of the biggest fears I had when I got into law school was the volume of data that I had to learn in terms of the judgments. It really scared me when I saw that there was so much data I had to learn, and it was really overwhelming for someone who hadn't up until that point seen and processed that much amount of information. Created a mild anxiety in my mind, which is why I wanted to talk to all of you about it, because I feel like a lot of students face that. Once they are in law college, they see that, oh, this is a lot more difficult than what I imagined. There is so much to study, so many things to do. The laws are never ending. The judgment go on for pages and pages. I am running late on my assignments. Am I going to make a good lawyer? So let me answer this question in this manner. I will first ask you a question. Or rather, it's a hypothetical question that everybody seems to be asking. Is law difficult? Absolutely, yes. But it is difficult for a reason. Like anything worthwhile in life, even law is very worthwhile, which is why it is difficult, because it takes certain amount of grit, it takes certain amount of passion, it takes certain amount of hard work to be able to ace the field of law. So yes, it is difficult, but it is difficult for a reason. And it is not the kind of difficult you cannot conquer. That is the first and foremost thing I want all of you in my mind. And that is what I'm going to be discussing. Once again, like I just mentioned earlier, I could share information with you about, these are the 5 things you need to do in order to be able to excel in law school. These are the things you have to follow. These are the rules. But this is information analytics. Like I said, we are in year 2020, and information is just one Google search away. So information is redundant and absolutely of no value because you can Google all those things. So, like I said earlier, let me propose to you this. I will give you a perspective. I will give you a perspective of my journey and the journey of many other law students I have spoken to. I will give you a perspective on that. And what I want to ideally impart by the end of this session is not my perspective upon you. I'm not saying that anything and everything I say is conclusive. Rather, I would like you to have your own perspective of what your journey of law school is going to be like, because that is important. It is important to be able to figure out that. Many of us think that, now I have got into law school, I have to excel in every moot, I have to excel in every debate, I have to excel in every examination. No, college is not a place for you to necessarily excel. I mean, it would be great if you do, but it's not a place for you to excel. It's a place for you to discover yourself. It's a place for you to fall in love with the subjects. It's a place for you to make mistakes and rise from them. Because let me tell this to you guys, there will be no other place in life where you can fall and rise up as easily and as conveniently as in a law college. Because why do I say this and why is it important? And why am I saying this first before I get into anything else? As a lawyer or as a person of law, or rather as a practicing lawyer, one skill that you have to, or one inherent skill that you have to inculcate is the ability to detach yourself from outcomes. Because as a lawyer, we know that a lot of times we are, it's not like in the movies where you make such a phenomenal speech and the case is overturned into your favor. Absolutely, no, it's not like that in the real courts. All of us as law students know that. A lot of times the merits of the case are not with us. We cannot avoid the damage from happening, we can only minimize it. So in that, it becomes very important for us to learn that skill of being able to detach ourselves from the outcome and still keep working. That is one skill as a lawyer that helps you a lot. Because that helps you have the objectivity you need in order to approach your cases, in order to approach your career, in order to approach your work. So that's the basic introduction I want to give to you, or sort of points that I wanted to impart into you, even before we discussed further into that topic. So kindly give me a moment. I'm just quickly going to share with you slideshow. Just give me a moment. Ellen, please let me know if my slideshow is visible to everyone.
It is, sir. It is visible. It is visible to me. Yeah.
Right. So making most of the law school, this is a segment where we are going to be talking about what law school is like, what are the various things, co-curricular and otherwise, what life is like in law school, how to make the most of that opportunity that you have there, those 5 years that you have in law school. That's what we're going to talk about. And I'm looking forward to all of you, sharing your problems that you have. There are things that you need input from my end regarding. Please feel free to comment on. Right. So the law school experience, I'm going to break it down for you guys into two very broad categories. But it is not limited to these two broad categories. The first one being curricular and the second being your co-curricular. So let us go through curricular subject and come back to the first point that I made. And the first thing that I said that, when I went to law school and I saw so many things that had to be studied, it really, really scared me. It honestly, very, very, very honestly, it scared me in terms of how do I do this? There is so much to learn. And I picked a book and I went to one of my faculties and I asked them that I don't know how to read law. Very honestly, I've been trying to, and this was my first moot. And I was supremely nervous because I was honestly I had always been a great debater. So, which came as a shock to me that, this is one of the first shocks that a lot of you are going to get, that being able to speak is not necessarily going to uh, be indicative of other legal skills like mooting and other competitions related to law. That came as a shocker to me. And how did I deal with it? I took the law book, and I think it was the Constitution. I think, yeah, it must have been the Constitution because it was for a moot court. And I went to one of my faculties and I kept the book in front of them. And I told them that, ma'am, I'm having a lot of difficulties in understanding. I don't know if I made the right choice selecting law. I'm not able to understand this law. There is just, when I read it, I understand. When I go through it, I understand. But soon after that, I just forget what it's about or how to make sense of this information. So my faculty took that book and she kept the book aside and she said, in order to be able to learn law, you don't need to be necessarily have a book in your hands. And then she gave me an example which I'm going to share with all of you. Have you ever tried walking around your house, or have you ever, those evening walks that you take in your campuses, those evening walks that you take around your house? What do? If you have a friend with you, you just talk and you walk around. Or if you have a pair of earphones, you plug in the earphones and you just start walking. But when you're walking around your house or in the area of your house, do you ever have the need to remember what way to go, or what left to take, or what right to take, or where to stop? No, you're listening to music and you're very subconsciously walking to whatever destination it is that you want to go to. And the reason behind that is because you've walked that path. How many times even you yourself don't know? How many times have you walked around your own house's area? When you go to your friend's house, when you go to buy groceries, maybe a few thousand times at least. And it is after those few thousand times that you are able to so subconsciously, walk around your house or know the map of the places around your house, have it in your subconscious mind. And when you go to a new place, for which you don't know the way at all, you have to use Google Maps, or you have to ask other people, or you have to go there a few times before you can before you can remember that ways. uh, or it's like setting up a password for your computer. For the first 2-3 times you're not going to remember, but you keep typing in that password again and again and again, and then after a few times you don't even need to remember what the password to your login credentials is. You just type it and it goes in. Or it's like learning typing. So she said, or she told to me, that it is not about having the ability to learn a lot of information. It is about having the ability to figure out how to learn a lot of this information. So what she told me, or what she said, is that some people have the cognitive ability to be able to remember a lot of information at one time. Maybe you don't have that. So what you have to do is you have to go through this law again and again and again. She said, let me guarantee it to you that you are not going to understand this law at the first time. But almost 90% of the time, you're going to give up the first time you read this law, and then you're never going to pick up that book again. Don't do that. Every time you read a piece of litigation, or read a piece of law, a piece of judgment, and you don't understand it, read it again. Break it into portions and read it, because at some point it is going to make sense. Let your brain do its job. Your brain has an innate ability to recognize patterns. Your brain has an innate ability to store information if you don't force it to. So start reading. Read for the love of the subject. Discover the subject. And over of courses of few readings, maybe 10, maybe 20, maybe 25, after a few times of reading, you will all of a sudden notice a structure in all of these laws. That's what happened with me. I mean, if you ask me today, how do you read law, or how do you read a piece of law or statute that is given to you? I first don't read it at all. I first go through its structure. I look at its structure. I look at the pattern that the litigation is sort of, or that piece of information is sort of establishing it. I look at the reasons behind it. I look at the history behind it. I get a complete background understanding of why this law exists in the form that it does. And it is then that I start reading my laws or judgments or whatever it is. Now, I have another friend who doesn't read it completely at all. He has figured out the trick to know what to read when. And he does not read in a chronological order. He reads from here and there. That's how his brain makes sense of all of this information. So what I'm telling you here, in order to be able to, perform well in terms of your study of law or in terms of your subject, is read as much as possible. There is this great saying that I always quote to my students, and that is, read what you love until you love to read. And that sums up everything I just told you. Keep reading okay, if a certain piece of litigation or a piece of law is very difficult for you, it's because it's vast. Pick up a small piece of law. There are so many laws in our country which are just a few pages. Pick that up, start reading it, and read until you fall in love with reading, because at some point it will all tie together. But you need to train your brain in order to be able to retain information and make sense out of it. That is the basic job that you would be doing if you choose a career in law. So that's the first and foremost thing. And then comes your improving your ability to learn and improving your legal skills. This is so dependent on your approach to your studies. Improving your ability to learn. Law is one of those fields where you have to keep learning regularly, because if you choose to be a lawyer, you are going to learn for the rest of your life, right? You are going to be updating yourself with laws that are passed. You're going to keep yourself updated with new judgments that pass, that changes that are made in procedural aspects of practice of law. You're going to have to be adapting to knowledge more than anything else. So develop the ability to learn. Read as much as possible. Spend some time with your law subjects. Go to your college library. Interact with your faculties. Your success in the field of law depends on your ability to learn, depends on your ability to pick up a piece of information and say that, okay, I have some time, I have to go through this information and make sense out of this information. And that comes with practice. So improve your ability to learn. There are so many things that you can do to improve your ability to learn. But first and foremost, you have to figure out what your learning style is. How I learn is very different from how a lot of other people learn. Some people prefer sitting and studying 4 hours back to back. Some people study in pockets. Some people make study by making notes. Some people study by recording their audio and listening to it. Some people study by just focusing on their professor's lectures. Some people study by um, teaching their friends one day before examination. What does that tell you about learning? It tells you that learning is something that is very different for each person, just like our fingerprints. It's something that you have to figure out on your own. So instead of trying, or instead of having this image in your head that you have to 24/7 sit and open books and read long judgments, figure out how do you learn. Figure out how your brain works, because once you figure that out, then learning becomes second nature, and that's what you're going to earn your bread with once you become a lawyer, from your learning, from your ability to learn. Because nothing in your life as a lawyer is ever going to be same, especially if you're in litigation. Every case, even though on the basis of same law, will have its own specialities, will have its own shortcoming, will have its own expertise that it will need you to bring. So the facts could be different. The kind of clients you are dealing with could be different. The kind of stakes that are there in the case could be different. If you don't have the ability to learn, or the specifics of the case could be different. If you don't have the ability to adapt and learn, then you, my friend, will struggle a bit. But the moment you do accept the fact that yes, learning is an important part of my legal education, then you are set free, because now you know what is the one thing that you need to do. And like I said earlier, detach yourself from the outcome. That's very important. Learn because you want to learn. Don't learn whether at this point I'm learning a piece of information, I'm like, oh, this is so difficult, if I don't get this done, I'm going to fail as a lawyer. No, that's not the case. Keep reading it, keep going through it, figure out a way to understand that. That is the innate ability that you need. In law, it is not your ability to memorize information, but your ability to learn that will take you forward. In fact, I'd read somewhere, and I'd like to share it. You have also, you know, uh, you how quickly that somebody had just talked about it, that how quickly you learn and remember isn't what decides if you're a good lawyer or not. How much patience you have until you figure it out does, right? So it's about having that patience to be able to, in order to learn, or to be able to put in that time, to put in that effort in order to learn something new, in order to learn the law. That is what is going to determine whether you're a good lawyer or not. And then, of course, is your improving legal skills. If I had to give you tips and tricks, I mean, that is something all of you already know, but I'm just going to say it once again. Be up to date with things. Be up to date with the judgments that are happening. Speak with your friends about legal problems. Speak with your friends about ideologies. Speak with your friends about different ideologies in the world. Learn about laws from other countries. Learn about laws that exist today or don't exist today. Learn about. All of us know, and that is something we are taught in our, in the beginning of our legal basics, that essentially religion is also a form of law. Find those parallels, learn about the philosophy of law, learn about the great things that law has done. Just like you try to get to know a person that you really like, just like you try to get to know a friend. If you have a friend, you are going to know what are the things that irritate him, that don't irritate him, what is his history, what are the things he likes. Just the same way, get to know law like you get to know a person. And not limit yourself to just what the curriculum is, and not limiting yourself to study for examination. Don't study. Of course, examinations are important. I would never say that they are not important. They are extremely important. But go out and beyond it. Don't just study for examinations. What you study could be useful for your examination, but that is not an indicator of how you should take information or how you should process information. So that's about your curricular part. And if there is something anybody wants to ask in that regards, please feel free to do so. Then comes your co-curricular portion. Um, how, this is one question that a lot of people ask. Do I need to be a good mooter? Do I need to be a good debater? Do I have to compete? No, you don't have to compete in order to become a great lawyer. Oh, you don't have to necessarily, it is like I said, like a lot of things I said, it is not indicative of that fact. But why would you not do it is the question I'm asking. I see a lot of students in law school, the moment they come, they see a lot of other students who are good with, who are really great with their mooting skills, who are really great at debating, and they're like, oh, I can never become like that. But what you need to understand is the purpose of law school is not to become like that. The purpose of law school is to strive to become like that. Nobody is going to be good at something off the bat. It's something you are going to have to put time and skill in order to, or time and patience in order to build. So go for that mood, go for that debate, go for that competition, compete as much as possible, because it's important for you as a lawyer to detach yourself from the outcome. Because when you go for these competitions, it is a given that there will be times when you will fail, there will be times when you will succeed, and that will teach you one of the biggest things that you need to know in order to be a good lawyer. That sometimes you, despite having put all the efforts, you're not going to be able to win something. And that is all right, because what is important is putting in as much as time possible, or doing it very honestly. Like we say in, we as lawyers always say that my job is not to help my client to win the case. My job as a lawyer, or my job as a legal professional, is to represent the client to the best of my abilities. I'm going to put in that hard work, whether the merits of the case are in my favor or not. I am going to put in my work. I am going to do my job. So these things teach you that. These things help you break your shell. What's going to happen at Max? You're going to fail at one of these moot courts. And that's the reason so many students don't go into these moot courts. Worrying that I am going to fail, or worrying that I might look like a fool in front of a few people. Well, you could look like a fool in front of a few people, or you could be actually become a fool by not taking part. And I'm not saying anybody who doesn't take part in moot or debating is a fool. But if you are letting your fear of failing from doing that, then definitely, my dear friend, there is no other word that I could use for you. So stop to think. Have you ever let your, and this is, I know this, all of these things you must be thinking, why is he giving us all of these extremely motivational tips instead of talking about points? I feel that is a really important thing. Many of you are such great mooters. Many of you are have the innate ability to do it, but you're just letting your fear of failing conquer your innate ability to try. Don't do that. Try as much as possible. That is something you will only be able to learn in your law school. Then comes your soft and allied skill improvement. Law school is a place where you are meeting people from different cultures. You're talking to different kinds of people. You are debating on various things. You're sitting in class with people with whom you agree, with whom you don't agree. So spend some time in order to improve those soft skills. Read, please. I mean, I don't know how many Game of Thrones fans are here in our live session today. But for anybody who is a fan or who is not even a fan and hasn't heard of it, here's a small quote that one of the characters, one of the most brightest characters in the series, says: "A mind needs books like a mind needs books like a sword needs a whetstone to keep its edge. If it is to keep its edge." And I completely second that thought. That as a lawyer, law is an intellectual profession, and reading is as important to becoming a good lawyer as is maintaining your body. If you want to become an athlete, read as much as possible. Not just laws, read philosophy, read religion, read information, read articles, read fiction, read non-fiction. Read about philosophy that you agree with. Especially read about philosophies that you don't agree with, because that will essentially give you an innate ability to be able to see from different perspectives, to have information stored in your brain that you can use at some other time. And above anything, it will enable you to process information in written format. And that is what you are going to essentially be doing for the rest of your life. So these are a few things that I can think of in order to be able to, um, essentially be able to ace or, make the most of your law school. Go be out there. Don't just sit around thinking about doing it. Just go and actually do it. And like I said earlier, the power, there is this another really great quote that I read a few days ago, which is that the power of the lawyer is the uncertainty of law. And it goes back to what I told you about having the ability to learn. Because essentially that's what your power as a lawyer is. Law is going to keep changing. And if you are someone who has the intellectual ability or who has worked hard on his information building skills, on his learning building skills, you will always ace it. The reason being that you have the ability to learn something as much as possible. You have the ability to take a new piece of information, something that is absolutely alien to you, and make sense out of it. And the reason I say that is because the nature of law is like that. The understanding of, like I said, the understanding of law is an intellectual exercise. Your mind should be sharp as much as an athlete's body should be fit in order to succeed. So read as much as possible, learn as much as possible. Going to the next. Yeah, for everyone who's ever told me that law can be boring or the study of law can be boring, please take note of what I am just going to show for you. Any student who tells me that the learning of law can be a boring and a cumbersome exercise, I present to you someone who's made memes out of law. If after reading this, somebody tells me that law is something that is boring, law is something that is extremely complicated, if law can be explained in such a simple manner, if law can be made into memes, please remember that law can be learned by you and you can ace it, regardless of what your current standing is. Just something, also because I've used this person's, it's something all of you can follow. It's all something you all can refer. I mean, this is something I use in order to teach my students law. And it works because it's interesting. So please feel free to simplify law for yourself. Please don't think that law is something extremely difficult or that takes years to ace. No, law is a set of rules and regulations. It's a set of common understanding of who we are as a society. So yeah, that's pretty much about making the best of law school or making the best of the experience within law school. Now I would like to quickly move on because we are now gradually running out of time. I will quickly move to the next portion in which is going to be the career in law. How does one essentially build a career in law? So as you go and explore yourself and explore your own brain and your own capabilities to learn information, capabilities to learn law, your connection with the subject, you are going to be able to then decide what career you want to choose. And before I go into that, I'm going to relate this to quickly to once again the first topic I made or the first point that I made, and that is career visibility. What is career visibility? Knowing what exactly your job entails. Now, there can be two categories of people within law school who are going to essentially take up careers in law. The first category is someone who's extremely focused, somebody who knows exactly what they want to do. And for that person, I say, go follow your instincts. If you think that there is something you're really interested in and you want to pursue it, go ahead, do as many internships as possible. Do as many internships as possible. Take law school is the opportunity for you to explore. If you're someone who's, and especially if you're someone who's completely focused from the beginning at this is what I want to do, you have 5 years to be able to build your skills so that when you graduate law, you have a certain skill that has value in terms of the monetary value that you bring in, whether it is litigation, whether it is in corporate law, whether it is in contract drafting, whatever it is. If you were focused in the beginning, you could have taken those 5 years in order to build those skills that will essentially make you able to be employable, create some sort of monetary value, because at the end of the day, that's why we all have careers, so that we can earn some money and live our lives. So that is what it is going to be able to do. Now, the second category of people in law school are the ones who don't know what they want to do, and that's absolutely fine. Don't worry. Take this opportunity to increase your career visibility. Go do as many varied internships as you can. Go work at an NGO. Go work at a corporate firm. Go work at a knowledge process outsourcing firm. Go work in the legal department of some other multinational or a national company. Try different areas of litigation to figure out what is the area that you want to go into. Even if you don't know what you want to do, you will definitely be able to know one thing: what you do not want to do, and that's great information to have, right? So it is on the basis of the skills that you have acquired or the decision. By these 5 years, you have now, after spending so much time, after following all the things that I said, now you have attained enough knowledge to be able to say that, okay, maybe this is something that really, really interests me. This is something I see myself doing. And then you can go on to make the decision of pursuing law. And exactly like what I said earlier, when I said you had to, when I gave you suggestion on to how to decide whether you want to go into law, it's the same process of going into a career in law. Decide and see what suits well with you. What is it that you really see yourself doing? What is it that you feel passionate about? Because essentially we as law students are by the society given 3 or 4 options, that you can become a litigating lawyer, or become a corporate lawyer, or you can get into judiciary, or you can be miserable. These are the 4 options that are given to us. And what I'm trying to tell you here is that law is not just a career option. Law is a subject which has so many implications in the society. Essentially, the world has survived up until this date because we have these books, we have constitution, we have different international laws that outline the morality of humanity as a whole. So don't look at law as a limited career option. I mean, the law isn't just a career, it's a subject. The reason I say that is because the moment you stop looking at law in the limited straight-jacketed perspective that the world has told you that these are the only options that you have, a lot of opportunities open up. The knowledge of law is one of the most basic, primitive. In its nature, it's so basic, primitive, and so widely applicable that you can essentially do anything. If you have done law, there is an implication of law in whatever it is that you choose to do. So look at law in that perspective. What is the value that you are bringing out of your knowledge of law? That is what you need to think about, rather than choosing an option from these 4 things that have been given to you. Absolutely not. Your options are not that limited. And please stop making information or career decisions on the basis of what the world tells you, or on the basis of what 10 other people are doing. You figure out what is your legal skill. Are you someone who enjoys drafting a lot? Then that could be a specialization that you could pick up. Are you someone who has varied skills and who really wants to, who finds litigation really, really interesting? Do you look forward to going to the court every day and dealing with a lot of things on multiple levels? Because being a litigator or advocacy is not just about knowing law and practicing law. There's a lot of things. There's client counseling, there is ability to be able to speak to people, there is ability to be able to convince people, there is ability to be able to deal with people, because you have to deal with your clients. You have to deal with other councils. You have to deal with people from the opposite parties. Do you have those abilities, and is that something you really enjoy? Then please go ahead for it. You might, even though at this point you feel like, okay, maybe I might not be really good at advocacy. If you really feel attracted to those activities or those particular skills, go ahead and do it. You will excel in it, because it is your interest in something that decides whether you become successful at it or not your knowledge. Knowledge is something you can open a book and gain. So now I'm going to quickly, break down uh, careers into three major careers. I'm not very exhaustive list, or not. There is a lot beyond this as well. But if you take at the core career options that you have as lawyers, there is litigation, advocacy, non-litigation law. That is, you're not going to go to the courts, but you are going to be practicing in the legal department of a firm, or you're going to be practicing law that doesn't, essentially contract drafting, contract negotiations, mergers and acquisitions. You can go into a corporate firm and be a part of their legal team, or you can take up CS or company secretary along with your law. You can go into civil services later on. These are core options, or these are rather core options that you have when you look at law in terms of a career option. So, what decides whether you take up this litigation, advocacy, non-litigation, corporate firm, or CS? Do you want to do it? Is it something you look forward to doing it? Which is where your internship that I talked about in your law school time comes in handy, because now now you have done one or two internships of each of these things, and now you know what you do not want to do, and that makes your decision much easier. So these are the core activities that you can sort of engage in terms of litigation, advocacy, non-litigation, corporate firm, and becoming a CS. Now there are other allied activities from the legal, from the legal fraternity, or that are related to law, or that have their basis, or that have their roots in knowledge of law, and that is becoming a legal officer at one of government, at one of government cooperatives, non-government cooperatives, a private company, essentially taking care of all the legal requirements that they need. You can write the JAG examination, that's the Judicial Attorney General's Department, where you become a legal advisor and handle legalities of the armed forces. You can get into KPO, that's knowledge process outsourcing. There are a lot of companies that are now, because India is the hub for outsourcing, that are now getting into knowledge process outsourcing, where essentially legal data is sent to you here in India, and we make or turn that data into things that can be used for trials abroad. That's an option. That if you're someone who has a lot of eye for detail, if you're someone who has who loves sitting with, who doesn't want to necessarily go into the court and deal with the multiple things that needs to be dealt with in the court, this is your place. Mergers and acquisitions, due diligence. If you're someone who has eye um, for minute things, who has eye for detail, due diligence is your place. You will shine there. If you're someone who has basic law knowledge and is great with negotiations, you can essentially become a business development executive somewhere, essentially entering into contract with many other companies on behalf of this company, negotiating contracts for them, overlooking contracts for them. Then there is teaching, which is the which is something very preferred. You can do your LLM, then you can do your doctorate, and then you can become a professor of law. I mean, there are a lot of great professors I know who personally, when I was pursuing my LLM, or currently am pursuing my LLM in law from Mumbai University, there are some faculties that are absolutely in love with the idea of teaching law. The passion with which they teach law, you can see it. And when I very personally asked them, because I was considering a career in teaching law, they said it's so good. It's something I enjoy so much. And these are teachers who necessarily, few of them were very focused about wanting to become teachers, but there were one or two teachers I interacted with who said, I tried the whole corporate thing, or I tried the whole litigation thing, but nothing gave me as much joy as teaching young people law, breaking down law into simple terms for these children, right? Or just interacting with this young crowd and teaching them law. Now for people who are very oriented into politics or policy formation, policy development is a great lucrative career for you. policy development for a lot of companies, policy development for internal housing policies, internal policies for companies, or policy development for the government. There are a lot of institutes in our country who are dedicated to this. You can take up internships as an intern at a member of parliament's office. You can take up internship at MLA's office. You can take internships at policy development centers, drafting international policies, drafting national policies that make difference to people's everyday life. You can get into social litigation. If you're someone who feels really, really passionate about social causes, that is a form of litigation that you can get into. And of course, litigation itself offers you so many specializations, so many things that you can do. In terms of, you can specialize or you can have a general litigation practice. That's up to you. Now, the third category that I would like to talk about is alternative legal careers. Because if someone tells me today that after doing law, there are only these, like I said, these four options that you have of becoming a if you can learn really well, become a judicial officer. If you can talk really well, become a lawyer. If you want to earn a handsome salary, become a corporate lawyer. These are the three options that they give us. If you don't want to take those, or if you don't want to, like if somebody tells me these are the only options you have, I wouldn't agree with that, because law, like I said, in its innate ability or in its innate essence as a subject is so wide that in today, especially in today's world, it has such great legal implications. The first one being a legal writer. Today, with the advent of content and technology, legal content has become really important. People are being paid 60 paise per word. People are being paid 1 rupee per word to write articles about law. So you can become a published writer for a newspaper. A lot of journalists we know have degrees in law. Great journalists. You can become a writer at a newspaper. You can become a part of a researching team at newspaper, because that is one skill that the law school essentially instills in you. Be able to research at a short notice and still be able to get a lot of things done. You can become a legal writer. You can become a, in fact, there is something known as, I don't know how many of you are aware of it, but there is a boutique firm in India which is uh, essentially concentrated around specialized writing. So there are people who have done medicine and then are writing articles for them. There are people who have done astronomy and are writing articles for them while pursuing respective careers in those fields, or be making this their full-time job. There are there is a concept of legal recruitment. These are people who come from the legal field and help multinational companies, help startups to recruit a legal team for them. Freelancer, a freelance lawyer who provides specific solution to specific set of people. Now you would ask me, how is that different from litigation? So there are a lot of niches that we have today which don't involve litigation, which is just basic advocacy in terms of drafting contracts, negotiating contracts. In fact, one person that I could really quote that has made a beautiful and a great working career and a model for us young lawyers going into the world is Miss Manojna Yeluri. She is the head and founder of Artistic License, which is a boutique freelancing, which is a boutique legal firm which offers solutions to people from the creative industry. And that is the only area that she deals in. She deals in copyright, she deals in contract negotiations, but specifically for the area of creative people. Then there are allied legal services. Like I said, knowledge process outsourcing. You can become a researcher, you can become you can provide allied services into other law firms, providing solutions to law firms, legal solutions to other firms. Or you're someone who's really interested in technology. You're someone who's, throughout your career of law, you have always enjoyed law and had, that's the subject you learned, but you always were interested in tech and AI is the next big thing. There is a lot of application for law within technology that is going to provide legal solutions to the legal world, and there is the ability of applying your legal knowledge and tech knowledge into making solutions or making legal solutions for the regular world. So these three categories, and there must be so many things beyond that. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you will be able to carve a niche for yourself, but that essentially requires you to look at yourself, see your skills, generally work to building those skills in within your law school, and then decide what is it that I want to do. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much the long and short of what I wanted to talk to you about, or what the perspective I wanted to present you with in terms of all of these things. I wish all of you all the very best for your careers forward, for your experience in law school forward, and I hope that you go back home today, sit for 5 minutes, and really think, what am I doing in law school, and am I making the most of the opportunity that has been provided to me? Because trust me, guys, somebody who has a knowledge of law, uh, that knowledge can never go wrong. I chose a different career path after I finished my law, and the ability that law has provided me with, the ability to be a thorough researcher, the ability to have openness to perspective, the ability to be able to look at things from a certain subjective, objective manner, the ability to divide and differentiate between facts and storytelling. All of these things have helped me a lot in my career. And if you want to ask me, what did I choose to do with my legal degree? I chose to become a solution provider for a lot of people. I chose to become a content creator. I chose to become an educator. And all these things that I do in my life, I chose to become a legal writer. I worked on a few fictions on the basis of law. I helped a few people write a few things, or shows or TV shows and films that were based on law. All of you know John Grisham, a great legal writer. That doesn't have anything to do with law, but has everything to do with law because he writes legal fictions. So there is no limit to what you can do once you become a lawyer, because becoming a lawyer essentially in itself is upskilling your ability to be able to learn. That's essentially what a lawyer is. Your career choice, or what you choose to do with law, doesn't define. The fact that you have that knowledge of what you choose to, or how you choose to project that skill, how you choose to manifest that skill and create value for yourself out of it, that is what matters. So that's about it, guys. If anybody has any questions, you can put it up in the chat. And Lizzie, if you have any questions for me, I would be happy to answer those.
Hello.
Yes.
First of all, I would say thank you so much, sir, because this is a session that I really needed, because, nobody tells you, like, nobody told me all this stuff when I got into my law school, like what all challenges I'm going to face there, how much smoothing and depressing can be. I mean, debating can be very depressing if you are not essentially good at it. After a point, you just get,
It is,
frustrated.
it takes a toll on you, but always remember, this is to you also and to everybody else who's watching. That's why we are in law school, so that we can make those mistakes, so that we can uh, we can we can um, to the point where we feel ashamed that, oh my god, I can't do this, and get rid of that feeling of being ashamed. And then once you've got rid of that feeling of anxiety and fear, you know that this is second nature to law. Feeling will come as a second nature to you, and learning will become your first nature. Once that happens, you're good to go. So don't let your, especially because you said this, don't let your ability to win or not win loss moods. They like one of my friend yesterday very very wisely pointed it out, that mooting and debating are all things that happen in a very controlled environment. That is something that is, you have judges, you're in a controlled environment in front of your friends. There is a certain competition that is involved. But when you go out into the world, that controlled environment is gone. At that point, it's not your ability to win or lose that triumphs. It's your ability to learn and overcome those losses that will sort of make you into a more uh, better lawyer, I would say.
So as we were talking about this, I want to ask you something. How is mooting essentially different from the real life litigation?
Like I said, my friend Mr. Rakil George is a practicing advocate. He said, so how he said essentially the difference is that uh, one is in controlled environment. You are essentially also you are only looking at cases that are appellate, that are appellate in nature. You are not necessarily handling cases that you would be handling if you are a practicing lawyer in the lower courts. So it's in a very controlled environment. It's like it's the same difference between playing games on a video game and then actually going to war. It prepares you for what's there, but it doesn't essentially completely prepare you. So look at it as something that's going to be a bouncing ball for you to be able to understand the basic rules of advocacy. But if you're not good at it in law college, it does not mean that you're not going to excel in it when you go out of school, because that's a fear a lot of us have, right? That, oh, I'm not good at mooting. Am I going to be a good lawyer? If you have the basic skills of advocacy and if it's something you're interested in, you will be good at it. You don't need to worry about uh, whether or not you're good at mooting or not. And like I said, detach yourself from the results, because essentially in real life law practice, it's not about your presentation or it's not how well you research that's going to win you the case. It's the placement of the facts of the case that essentially going to win or lose. Of course your advocacy skill comes into play, but there's a lot more things that you cannot go beyond. You're not there being judged on your skill to research. You're not there being judged on the ability of who you are. You're being judged on the ability to present the merits of the case. So it's important. I would say whenever you get the opportunity, go take participate in moot, and the more number of moots you lose, the better. That's great, because then you will get rid of that fear of losing, and maybe actually you will learn something really worthwhile.
Great. Okay. My next question will be like doing company secretary with law. Like, what's the advantage of doing company secretary with law, or does this have something to do with the placements or something?
Of course, because then you are what's happening now. Essentially, like again, very similar to all my other answers. Is it something that you're looking forward to do? Is it something that Are you looking to get into the corporate ladder and specifically understanding the things or the set of knowledge that is given to you in company secretaryship? Is that knowledge, is that area of practice very enticing to you? Is it something that you really find interesting? If yes, go ahead. The only advantage that it's going to provide you, I mean, whenever I look at something to learn, I always look at it this way. The only advantage, whatever I'm learning, is providing me is the knowledge. And more beyond than that, everything is bonus. So the bonus that you will get while taking up CA with law is that you will get exemptions in certain examinations. And because the nature of both of these subjects that we learn is essentially similar, it also lets you add on a very valuable and worthwhile degree without having to spend a lot more time to pursue it. In terms of advantage, just that. But in terms of knowledge, a lot of knowledge to be gained, a lot of information that you can use, cross information from law and CS that you can use in your career if you choose to take up CS.
Okay. My last question for today's session. So that will be importance of legal writing. So from the day one in my law school, like our faculties have been forcing us to write blogs, write articles, get published your stuff. So how important is legal writing when it comes to a law student life?
Now that's a very tricky question, right? In sense of why do our faculties tell us to do it?
Yeah.
The reason, now many of us think that the reason our faculties are telling is because it's very pertinent to our career, or no, it's not. It's none of that. The reason legal writing is important is writing is one of the forms of information processing that requires all your abilities. There, when you're writing, you're generating ideas, you're putting into words, you're becoming an editor there. You are Once you have written, you're looking at your own writing and thinking, oh, this is so bad, then you're going back to edit it. Because you could talk very easily, but to be able to write a piece of legal information that makes sense, that creates value, that is saying something really important, that's a skill in itself, which involves many other skills. Like, you cannot write a legal article without having to research extensively. You cannot write a legal article without being someone who is articulate. You cannot write a legal article without putting in that much amount of time, because it's not like story writing or any other form of writing we have known. It's one of those forms of writing which involves immense amount of research behind it, and that's the purpose there. That's the reason why they are telling you to do it, because when you do that, you exercise a lot of your muscles. So say if you're a cricketer, you will exercise certain kinds of muscles. You will exercise your leg muscles, you will exercise your arm muscles to be able to have power to hit the bat. If you're a basketball player, so it's just muscle exercise for your basic instincts as a lawyer. You will learn to research well, you will learn to articulate well, you will learn to be able to present your ideas. So these are the advantage of that is why they tell you how to write. Don't worry whether you're good or not at it. You will get good at it eventually. That's a rule of nature if you do something over and over again. So take that opportunity. I would say that you should definitely, it's important. However, it's not, it's not synonymous with being successful in law.
Okay, so I think that's pretty much from my questions, like from my part.
If there are any other questions, I'm really sorry about that. If there are questions that anybody else wants to ask, regarding from our comments, then I'd be happy to answer it before we take the leave for the day.
So in the comment section, I don't see much questions. The comment section is comparatively empty.
Right.
So I think we can wrap up, sir.
We can wrap this up. Thank you so much, Ellen, for being so patiently listening. Thank you, everyone, for who joined here. Listen to me rant so patiently. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Lex Erudites, for inviting me. You're all a bunch of great visionary young law students. I would tell all of you who's a part of Lex Erudites that keep being at it, because trust me, this experience of being here and doing all of these things is going to impart a lot of value into your lives. You're going to learn a lot of things that you might not be able to learn just by being in law school.
Okay, so thank you so much, sir, for just being here and just putting all these insightful thoughts in our brains. I'm pretty sure people who attended the session would have cleared a lot of their doubts and a lot of their anxieties, and pretty much would have been motivated like me, because this is a motivation that I really needed at this point of time, because I was running so low out of energy because of my internships and in the failed mood.
Law can be an overwhelming subject. There's a lot to learn. It can be scary, to say the least, but it's not unconquerable. That's what I had to basically want to tell you. It's something that everybody can do.
And also a big salute for you for taking both Anil sir's part and your part in just answering all my questions and speaking for 1.5 hours continuously.
Absolutely nothing to do. He just shared all the information in such a concise and precise form, and I will be really glad to hopefully have one more session where Anil sir is here, because there's no one there is no one as qualified and as expert in that field of preparing students for examination. So let's hopefully look forward. And again, once again, thank you, Anil sir, for having me send all the details in so much detail so that I could share it with everyone.
So once again, on behalf of the entire Lex Erudites team, so I thank each one of you for attending today's session. I hope you have learned something. And thank you for making it a grand success. Thank you.
Thank you all. Best of luck, guys. Best of luck to you also.